Hi, everybody. Welcome to the first awards info session we'll have for this year's CHBA National Awards for Housing Excellence. Just give another couple seconds for people to log in here, and then we'll get the show on the road. All right, hopefully everybody can see my screen. As I mentioned, this is the awards info session. So the point of today is to kind of give you an overview on the CHBA national level awards, all the different categories we have, so tips and tricks, that kind of thing. If anybody wants, I can walk them through the entry system as well. And there's also an opportunity for you to ask questions as we go. So I'm going to do a poll towards the beginning to find out what areas that you're interested as a participant today. But if you do have questions as we go, feel free to pop them into the question panel that you see at the bottom there. And I'll try and answer as we go. If I'm about to speak about it, I may ignore you for a little bit until I get to that slide. But otherwise, feel free to jump in whenever you want. The session is really for you and hope that you feel confident going into an awards creation. So with that, just a very brief overview. It's Canada's premier awards. It's the biggest national award set in the country for new homes, renovations, community development, and marketing. We have 48 categories again this year in all those areas. And we typically get entries from just about every province, not always from some of the maritime provinces, but we really hope to see entries from everywhere. And our awards are judged by CHBA members from coast to coast. So we also have judges from all across Canada, from their small towns, small companies, just like you, to kind of the bigger builders and renovators, and then a variety of subsets of our membership. So people that are well informed in architecture and marketing, etc. So before we get started, I'll introduce myself. My name's Natasha. I'm CHBA's Director of Marketing and Communications, but more appropriately for this conversation, I've been running our awards program for probably about 6 years now. So don't be shy if you've got any questions. I've got up on the slide here as well, Amy Hussick. She's my colleague, and she's been helping with all of the admin stuff this year. She's also the one who's monitoring our inbox, Housing Awards at chba.ca. So if you have a question and you email us, you'll probably be getting a reply for Amy or maybe sometimes myself, just depending on the nature of the question. So with that, I want to get a little bit more insight into who you are and why you're here today. So I'm going to pop up a couple polls. And that first one you'll see there is asking you whether or not you've entered the awards before. So we're asking specifically about the national level here, not your local or provincial level. If you have, was it fairly recently within the last 2 years, or was it quite a while ago, in which case things might have changed? So I'll give you a couple more seconds there. If you can all please pop in there and answer, I'll know how much detail to give throughout this conversation. So it looks like a couple of you are multitasking and haven't answered yet. I'll give you a few more seconds. But for those of you who have, it looks like we're pretty much a 50-50 split. I'll just share the results here. So about half of you have not entered at all before, and the other half within the last couple of years, and some of you quite a while ago. So it's a good little split. We'll go over everything. If there's anything you want me to spend more time on, just drop it in the questions and we'll do that. And I'll go right into a second poll here, which is asking what areas are you interested in? So we have new home categories. It's for custom and production, as well as new home spaces. We have specifically Net Zero Home Award, Renovation Awards. We've got a couple different awards for community development. Note that our multifamily mid to high rise are included in that new homes category. So if that's what you do, that's the one to answer. And then residential marketing is the last one there. And you can enter, you can select more than one if you're thinking of doing a couple. Okay, I'll give you another couple seconds here. All right. So it looks like the majority are interested in new homes, followed by renovations, and a few of you for net zero homes and marketing. And nobody on this call is interested in community awards, so I'll probably just breeze right past that section. Okay, thank you all for that, and I'll get right into it. If my slide will advance. There we go. Okay. So who do the awards go to? Every local, provincial, and national awards is set up a little bit different. So if you've entered before for one of those, for your local association or your provincial association, this is important stuff to know. At the national level, the primary recipient of the award is either a builder, a renovator, or a developer. And if it's a marketing award, then it would go also to a marketing company if you choose to set it up like that. And I can talk more about that later if anybody has specific questions. So what does that mean? It means those are the people whose names are going to be on the trophy and on the certificates. So that's who it goes to. However, we've also got the opportunity to add other people. So if you're on this call and you are that primary recipient, this is important to know because you can add other members on there. So let's say your architect is also a CHBA member, by all means, go ahead and add them as a contributor and they'll be added to the press release and on the certificate as well, just not on the trophy because we can't put, tons of info on that trophy. Other examples of who contributors are: designers, energy advisors, your interior decorator, your cabinet maker, your cabinetry, or your carpenter, etc. So any of those other subsets of trades or designers, feel free to add as a contributor. If you are that person, so let's say you're the architect on the call today and you're interested in looking at new home awards. So what you need to know is that because the award goes to the builder and you as the contributor, that builder needs to be a member of CHBA. They also have to give you the green light to go ahead and enter on their behalf for the both of you. So CHBA does a ton of work throughout the year, but how do you get recognized if you're a finalist? We send out a press release to all of our media contacts. We do a bunch of social media, especially right after finalists and winners are announced, but also throughout the year. We have a big award ceremony. This year it's going to be in Banff in February at the Fairmont there. So keep that in mind, put a save the date, hopefully. And we give out trophies to the winners. As I mentioned, we also use collateral throughout the whole year. So even if you enter and you're not named a finalist or a winner, we do use your project like on our social media throughout the year. You maybe, see yourself in an article for building excellence because we're always looking for really cool story ideas. We do blog posts. If you're a finalist and winner, you'd be in our awards gallery. We're also doing a special coffee table magazine that'll be going out. So those are just some of the ways that we help promote you regardless of your status after the award. So it's well worth it to even just enter. We also have this publication to help you market. So it's to give you different ideas of how to leverage that award entry. Okay, so who can enter it? This is kind of, basic requirements 101. You have to be a member and you have to be a member where the project was built or renovated. So let's say you are building a home in Winnipeg, you have to be a member of the Manitoba Home Builders Association. If you are building or renovating in Vancouver, you have to be a member of Haven. You are automatically a member of CHBA if you're a member of a local association or a provincial association across the country. So make sure that that location matches up. Don't spend a ton of time doing an entry if you actually built a custom home that's 6 hours from where your association is and it's in the jurisdiction of another association. If that's the case, you can join that other association and be eligible. We've got a couple of exceptions to that rule. So if you are one of the marketing people on the call today, marketing companies have to be members of the association, but it doesn't matter where because your type of business doesn't have a physical location per se. You just have to be a member somewhere. So I've got an example up there that if your builder is in Kelowna, they have to be a member of Central Okanagan, but you might be the marketing company based in Vancouver, and that's okay. I'm going too fast. Let me know. I'm trying to whiz by more of this administrative type content. In terms of checking membership, so we do go through a quite laborious process of checking your membership after all of the entries are done. In order to help us with that and to make sure that there is no confusion, you have to look up your member ID for CHBA. It's really simple. You just click on that button that's on chba.ca/housing awards and you find your company. You make sure that it's part of the local association that you're part of, and you enter, I think it's a 6-digit number. If you don't see your company in there, that's a red flag that should be addressed right away. So, check if you're sure you're a member, check with your local. We got to make sure we've got that information, and it's best to start that process earlier before the deadline so there's not kind of a last minute crunch time. Okay, So every year our eligibility period changes slightly, but in general, we're going for about a 1.5 year entry eligibility period. So for new homes, new home spaces, renovations, and communities, the project has to be built. So that's like, it has to be finished. It's got to be livable. Everything's hooked up. It's ready to go between April 1st of last year, 2021, and our deadline, which is October 17th. Net zero homes have been labeled in that period. So they may have been built and labeled, or maybe they were built slightly earlier, but the label didn't come in until later. Marketing categories, the marketing activities had to have taken place. So for example, it could be a project that's not completed yet, but you're doing your marketing activities in advance, which makes sense. It's a marketing award. So that as long as the marketing activities take place in that time period, you're good. And then if you're entering mid to high rise condo in the planned category, obviously it's planned, it's not yet built, but it does have to be far enough along in the process that it's available for sale or rent between that time period. So I mentioned that we've got 48 categories. In addition to those 48 categories that you can enter, we also have 3 best overall type categories. We've got one for that says building excellence, which should say design excellence. So that's for sort of new home awards and new home spaces awards, renovation excellence, and marketing excellence. So you don't have to enter those categories. You just have to kind of enter a certain number of subcategories for it, which I'll explain in a little bit. Under the new home category side of things, which a good chunk of you on this call said you were interested in, we've got a few different subcategories, but the purpose of these awards is to recognize the excellent architectural qualities of the home, including exterior and interior design, use of forms and materials, creative use of space, functionality of the floor plan, and the overall appeal to your target market. So that target market part is really important. If you're building custom homes, that's your client. If you're building spec, that's who you're hoping to sell to. And it's important because we instruct our judges that they're not judging based on flash, they're judging based on intent. So for example, if you are marketing towards first-time home buyers, entry-level buyers, your product is probably based at a lower price point. And so this is the area of your entry where you explain what your goals were, and they're supposed to judge on how well you met those goals. On the flip side, if you're in the luxury market, and your client had a massive budget and you're trying to, wow them with design, et cetera, you explain that that was the goal and how well did they reach that. So for attached homes, we've added a category this year just to reflect the growing part of the market that those types of homes have right now. So we've got 3 different categories for best attached low-rise home. And low-rise for our competition is defined as 3 stories and lower, and mid-rise is 4 stories and higher. So we've got an under 1,500 square feet, a 15 to 18, and an over 1,800 square feet. We also have that mid to high rise building that's already completed, as well as a mid to high rise building that's planned. And because it's not built yet, that particular category doesn't give you points towards the Design Excellence Award. The breakdown of our production detached homes looks like this. So we've got under 18, 18 to 21, et cetera, that you can see here. We do have a question in that I might as well take now because I don't really get too much into it earlier. But the question was, what's the best way to describe target market and audience in the form? So that's a great question. You don't have a ton of space in there. So think, the judges are fellow industry experts, so they really do understand the lingo. Get right to the point. Don't be too flowery. So for example, if you're building on spec, I would describe it as, entry-level buyers under the age of 40. So it's whatever your sales packages aim towards. Obviously, you'll sell it to whoever wants it. But if you had a specific target in mind, it could even get more descriptive. So for example, active seniors looking to downsize while maintaining a sense of fun, for example, gives the judges a good indicator of who really you're trying to sell to. If it's a custom home, for example, your client, you would just describe them. So for example, young active family with 3 kids looking for storage solutions. might be a short way of describing why they decided to do a custom home and sort of what their key things they're looking for. You'll have room to elaborate later on in the entry forms on that as well. But that one little liner there is really supposed to sum up who you're trying to sell. I have another question in here. Can you enter a 1500 and an 1800 from the same community? Yes, absolutely. So you can enter up to 3 product, like 3 different floor plans per category per membership. So you can enter up to 3 in that one 15 to 18. But that 15 or 18 falls under 2, right? You've got your, well, I guess if it's slightly over 18, it would fall into 2. But yes, you get up to 3. They do have to have distinct floor plans. I mean, they should be. And so yes, short answer is yes. Another question, attached homes with the square footage parameters need to be built, not planned. That's right. The only category we have for planned is that mid to high rise planned. And the only reason we have that is that those types of projects tend to be marketed like, up to 5 years in advance before the actual building process starts. And so that's why we've got that category in there. Everybody else already has to be built. And just FYI, most entries, I would say, if it's a show home situation, they're showing the show home. So, the entire neighborhood, if you're building a neighborhood, doesn't need to be built, just the one home. If you're custom, obviously, it's going to be the custom home. Okay, I think that's everybody for now. So I will keep, oh, here we go. And do they both go towards the design excellence? Yes. I'll explain a little bit more about the design excellence after. Okay, and one more question. You guys are flooded in. Okay, here we go. Does the architect have to be a member of the same local chapter as the builder, or do they get similar exception to the marketing agencies? For that particular one, the architect does have to be in the same local chapter. All right, I will keep going, keep coming with the questions though, if you've got them. Under custom homes, we've changed up the square footage just a tiny bit to reflect the type of entries we got in the last year, but you can see here that these are the different divisions that we've got for the custom homes, going everywhere from under 2,500 square feet to over 5,000 square feet. We also have an entry-level home award. This one's pretty interesting. We do get, concerns that the type of product that I'm building isn't fancy enough to win an award, etc. So our answer to that is number one, our judges are instructed to judge based on intent. Obviously, we can't control everybody and their thought process, but that's the reason why we train them like that, is so that they're really looking at the intent and whether they're looking at first-time buyers or the luxury market, etc. However, we do have this standalone category that's really aimed at that entry-level home. So much so that you actually have to be priced at the lowest quintile of the market for your area. So if that's you, this is a great category to enter. And we've got a little chart. When you go into that award, there's a hyperlink that'll show you what that threshold is for what your price point has to be at. How do we come up with that number? It's based on the lowest 20% of single detached and semi-detached dwellings from CMHC data, or the upper limit of CMHC's first-time home buyer incentive, whichever is on the lower side. So for those of you who are extremely entry-level homes, that's definitely the category for you to enter. All right, so one of the common questions that we get quite a lot is what counts as square footage? So this is for the new home categories. Renovation categories don't ask for square footage in the same way. So any finished living area that's above grade for our competition counts as square footage. So if you had a basement, but it's below grade, you don't count the square footage. That said, you're absolutely allowed to talk about the basement and show photos of the finished basement. You don't have to pretend it doesn't exist. It just doesn't count as part of your square footage. So I've got a little example here for walkout basements, which is kind of that, gray area. People aren't quite sure what to do with it. So if it's a walkout, so therefore it's not all below grade, you do have to count it as a square footage. But if you just have an egress, like you can see here, obviously that doesn't have quite the same wow factor as a full walkout basement. So that doesn't count as above grade, since it's not really, it's just that egress part that is. So what counts as an attached home? Different areas across the country kind of have different definitions. So I think it's important to explain here what it is. Number one, it's got to be ground oriented, which means that it's got its own entrance that's accessible from the outside. So there's no common area that you walk into and you're in a foyer or a lobby and then you go to your address. It has to be 3 stories or lower. And then to get even more specific, it has to be part of Part 9 of the building code, which could include Part 9 with Part 3 garages below it, or 4-story homes with Part 9 variances. So, examples, townhomes, some people call them row homes, duplexes, some people call those semi-detached, and condos that are low-rise, like all of those would probably be included in a low-rise detached home, as long as it's 3 stories or lower. For a mid to high rise building, what does that mean? It's not ground oriented, so they do share a common entrance, and it's 4 stories or higher. And then we've just got a note here. So an entry into that project is basically you're looking at the project as a whole. So it's the whole building that you're entering, and then you'll show common amenities, common areas, could include landscaping, pathways, all that kind of stuff. And then you'll also show some images from inside, like one of the sample suites or something like that. The other question that gets asked quite a bit, that sometimes people are a little bit unsure is it custom or is it production? And what's the difference? So for our competition, production homes have floor plans that are meant to be used for more than one customer. Is sort of the bottom line. It is not a proprietary floor plan. So that's pretty easy to figure out if you're building, 100 floor plans of the same in a new community development. Obviously, you're building on spec, it's a production home. When it gets a little bit dicier is, for example, let's say you're doing infill, but you're working in a neighborhood that has very similar conditions, and you've got this floor plan that's not for a specific custom client. You've got your own floor plan. It's proprietary to you, not the client, and you plan on building it eventually in more than one place if the opportunity arises. That would still be a production home. It may be customized to a certain extent based on location, but the floor plan itself is not meant to be for one specific client. So to sum up, a custom home is truly a one-of-a-kind home. It's not meant to be repeated. If you're not sure, think like a judge. So which option is less controversial? I would say we probably get more judges questioning a custom home, a home that they feel is custom that's in a production category, because that feels a little bit more unfair, right? Like, hey, this beautiful home that's in production, I'm not really sure, than they do the other way. So my first suggestion is to really think like a judge, because if they really doubt, first they come back to the organizers and they ask us to confirm with the entrant, which we do. But if they still kind of feel about it, they tend to not judge quite as favorably as if they think it's in the right category. So if it feels a little to you, err on the safe side, it's probably production. And it's totally okay to have production homes that you market as customized to your clients. So for example, if they're picking their backsplash or they're picking their flooring or their cabinet choices, etc. So it's really about the floor plans, and floor plans that have different options. So for example, second floor loft versus a 4th bedroom or something like that, that's still a production floor plan. It is not for a specific client. You just have different variations of the same floor plan. So that's probably our most asked question. If that's not clear enough for you, feel free to ask and I'll do my best to make that more clear. We do have some new home spaces. So if you haven't entered in the last couple years, this will be new for you. This was requested quite a lot, and so we've added it. So if you, in addition to entering the whole home for a custom home, for example, if the kitchens really stand out, you can absolutely enter it into the best custom kitchen category and then show off just the kitchen. Why would you do that? It gives you an opportunity to add in a lot more photos than you would for the whole home. And then it's just one more award that you can enter. And the points for that do go towards the Design Excellence Award as well. So that big overall award. So as with anything, the more that you enter, the more chances you have to accumulate points towards that best overall award. Okay, moving on to the renovation specific categories. So these ones are obviously for renos, but the same sort of idea, right? The overall appeal of the design, the creative use of space and functionality and integration within the home, which is a little bit different, all while meeting the homeowner's requirements and addressing any challenges. So for these awards, it's just like putting your target market for new home awards. It's very important that you explain for the judges what was your homeowner going for? And your budget will be in there as well. There's a space for you to enter your budget, but what exactly were they looking for and how did you deliver? And sometimes that's very challenging and your judges are renovators as well and they know that. So don't be shy to talk about that and how you overcame that. Just going back a slide here, we had a question on the spaces. So does primary suite include the master bedroom, ensuite, and walk-in all together? You nailed it. That's exactly what that primary suite is. All right. So for renovations, we've got several different categories for you to enter for single homes. We've got 3 for the kitchen categories, and the renovation categories are not based on square footage. They are based on dollar value of the reno. So those categories all include dollar value. Then we also have separate categories for bathrooms, basements, the exterior, and the single room renovation. Just to note on that exterior, the exterior has to include actual buildings. So it's not a landscaping thing. It's an evolution of the exterior of the building. So it could be like you redo the whole front facade, or maybe if you're in the backyard, for example, you've built, an outdoor kitchen and a huge screened in porch or something like that. So there has to be an architectural element to it. And then we have 5 different categories for the best whole home renovations. We've moved the dollar value around a little bit based on what we're seeing for entries. Why do we do that? We do get questions asked sometimes why we change categories. For example, if one year we got 20 entries into one category and the category that's right next to it, we only got 5, we like to kind of divide those so there's an even split so people have more of an opportunity to win based on, what we're seeing come in. So that's why we kind of move that differentiator around a little bit. So for a whole home category, it's got to involve more than one room. It can also include the interior and exterior work. So it could also include an addition, for example. And if you enter into the whole home category, you can also enter into the individual spaces. So you could enter into the whole home category. Maybe you did the entire main floor that included the master bedroom, the kitchen, the dining room, the living room, a little office, and the exterior. That would definitely fall under a whole home renovation. But you could also enter into the kitchen category for just that same kitchen for that same project. And maybe you did the basement too. Same idea. So one project could allow you to enter into several different categories. So the renovation award is the Renovation Excellence Award is our best overall for renovations. So it recognizes kind of best overall performance. So in order to be eligible for it, you have to have entered at least 3 different renovation award categories. So you couldn't enter 3 different projects into the kitchen category, for example. It'd have to be different categories. And then obviously the more that you enter, the more your chances of winning are. So some facts about the renovation awards. The big question here is usually cost. What is that renovation cost? What does it include? So it's got to be the overall estimate of any part of the renovation. So that could include, that includes materials, labor, etc. It can also include any materials the homeowner self-supplied. Definitely needs to include any structural work. It is before tax, for example. So why do we do the homeowner self-supplied? Can't say that word. For example, if you had a kitchen renovation and then you said the kitchen was a $20,000 renovation, but you're looking at it and the appliance package alone is $10,000. It's not an accurate representation to the public on how much of those types of renovations cost. And at the end of the day, all we would do is devalue the industry because when people get quotes, they're going to think it's ridiculous. So that's why we include any materials that the homeowner self-supplied. If you don't know the exact amount, chances are you've got a pretty good idea of, roughly how much they cost. So you would include that in there as well. Some common questions for the renovation categories. Can I enter a previously unfinished basement? Yes, you can. And then what can be entered in the exterior? I talked about this a little bit already. It can't be a pure landscaping thing. It's got to be a major upgrade, either to the outdoor living space, added space, or the front of the home itself. All right, we had no one interested in community, so I'm going to skip right over this unless you put in the question period that you do want me to talk about it. And a couple of you were interested in net zero homes. So the main thing to know really is that you can enter your home in the corresponding net zero home award category, as well as in the new home category that it belongs to too. So we do have two categories for net zero homes. One is for custom or renovated, and the other one's for production homes. So let's say you built a custom home, it's net zero, you've got it in that category, best custom or renovated net zero home. You could also enter it into the new home category. So let's say it was, 1,800 square feet, you would enter it into the category that it belongs to there. Just another note on the Net Zero Home Awards, the big distinguisher is they have to all be labeled through CHBA's Net Zero labeling program. So when you do enter, you'll be asked to submit your label number there, and that's how we check to make sure that the home's labeled. And sorry, I keep accidentally hitting it. Because they're all labeled, they are all on a level playing field, which means you don't have to, and you shouldn't actually, get into the nitty gritty of the technical elements behind it, because everybody's on a level playing field technically, and your judges are not going to be technical experts. They're looking at all the same criteria for new home awards, that functionality of space, the floor plan, how well you met your customers' needs, etc. There's no need to get into the technical side of things because you're all performance level net zero. All right, on to marketing awards. So we've got a bunch of different awards for marketing. Obviously a very crucial part to building and renovating. And so these honor, attracting attention, generating traffic, etc. So here are all the different categories that we have. We haven't changed them since last year. So if you entered last year, you will recognize all of these. However, last year we did add quite a few of them. So if it's been a couple of years, you'll see some new ones here. So these kind of cover the gamut of all of the different marketing endeavors that you may do. And if you have any questions on these ones, let me know. Each one will ask you specific info. You'll have places to, add URLs, for example, to your video if appropriate, etc. We also have the Marketing Excellence Award. So that one's the best overall in marketing. Again, you don't have to enter into this award, but to be eligible for it, you have to have entered at least 4 different categories, and you have to have won in at least one of those categories. So if you're on the call today and you're a marketing company and you are entering on behalf of your builder, we definitely have, we've got a whole section for you on the website to show you the different ways of doing that and optimizing it if you're entering on behalf of different clients, because we don't want you to have to repeat entering information and everything like that. So definitely have that, check that out. It can definitely save you some time. And the big one, of course, make sure that your client is a member of CHBA in the area where the project is, even if that project is not built yet, to make sure that that your entry is actually eligible. So the big question we typically get asked by marketing companies is, how is the marketing company recognized, especially because they're often the ones that are doing the work of doing the entry. So there's a couple different options. As I mentioned, the award itself will go to your builder, renovator, or developer client. And then they/you have the option of adding the marketing company as a full partner. So in that example, the award would go to ABC Builder with DEF Marketing Company. The other option, rather than a full partner, is to add yourself as a contributor. And in that case, the award would go to, for example, ABC Builder, with, and then the marketing company. So just a slight difference. One of them you'd be on the trophy, the other one you wouldn't. You do need permission from the builder to enter, and there's a little affirmation box to say that you got that. But it's really up to you on how you want the company presented. If you're doing all your marketing in-house as a builder or renovator, then obviously that's not, don't care too much about that because you're doing it all in-house. So you would enter just like any other award with yourself as the builder. If you are a marketing company submitting for more than one builder, or if you're someone on this call who actually prepares award entries as a profession, and there are people who do that, by the way, for you, how do you submit for more than one company? You create your own login into our awards system. And then you can enter on behalf of as many companies as you want. And there's one single sign out, one single payment option. And there's a couple tricks for you as well in terms of getting that info out there a little bit faster. One of them being if you do an entry for a company, fill in all of the company's contact information and then just copy that one over for the next entry, save you filling out some information. So all of this entry that I talked about here is also available at chba.ca/housing awards. Our deadline, I'm going to keep talking after this, by the way. This is just a little like sum up. Our deadline is October 17th at 6 p.m. Eastern. I will tell you now, we know that a lot of local and provincial awards end up extending their deadlines, to allow more people to come in, and sometimes just a little bit of a create that sense of urgency. We never extend our deadline, like ever. So it is not a bluff. It will close October 17th at 6 p.m. We have a very aggressive turnaround time in terms of starting judging and trying all that. So absolutely get into the system, check it out, make sure you're comfortable in it. Don't leave it to the very last second. You can actually enter your award and edit it up until the deadline. So if you're cutting it kind of close, the deadline's on a Monday, by the way. So let's say it's Friday, you enter it with the idea that I'll go back in on Monday and clean up my language a little bit or something like that. That's a good idea to make sure your transaction goes through and everything's in the system, and you'll still have until the deadline to do some final tuning there. A couple questions came in on the marketing. So it says for the short video and long video, it only asks for screenshots. It shouldn't. There should definitely be a space for you to enter a URL. So we'll have a look at that one. And I know Amy's on the call here too. So Amy, if you can make a note, we'll have a look at that one and make sure that that field is showing up. But it definitely should be. So thanks for the heads up on that one. You should be able to provide a URL to the video. You won't upload the video. You'll just provide that URL to YouTube or wherever it goes. Someone's asking, can we have a copy? I think we are recording it, so I'll copy or I'll post the link to it somewhere, and you'll be able to access that. And as I said, I am going to keep going into a little bit to talk about more in depth what you actually need to enter, as well as some tips that we've got for you. Another question about the spaces. Can the powder room be included in the best bathroom category? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, moving on. Specifics about what you need to enter. So before you get started, there's set information for pretty much all of the categories that you need to start an entry. If you're one of those people that works kind of last minute, this is good for you to know, because some of this stuff could take you a little bit while to gather. So at least get started on that. The first one is professional images. This is like by far the thing that will set your entry apart. Is making sure that you've got really great images, no matter what you do, whether you're a renovator, custom builder, production builder. Paying for professional images that you can use in your portfolio forever, your website, your social media, etc. If you don't have that, it's definitely worth the investment. Now, that said, it's not required. We can't tell the difference between a professional image and a not professional. I mean, you can kind of tell, but you know what I mean? We're not like checking a box for that. So all that to say, get the best images that you can up there, show a variety of angles. And for renovators, make sure you've got some before and after. The before ones usually look pretty rough. They're usually just from a client's cell phone or something like that, and that's okay. You will need absolutely floor plans. We ask for simple floor plans. So these are the type that you would give your prospective buyer if you do custom homes, or your client. So not the ones with all the measurements on them, et cetera, just the ones that are basically the outlines of the room with maybe the dimensions of the room on them and the room name, living room, 18 by 24, et cetera. You'll need all of your company information. It's pretty much a given. You'll also need a key contact for that company. So if it's you creating the award, you would be that contact person, but you also have room to designate another contact person as well. So an example might be perhaps you're in an administrative position and you're doing the bulk of this award entry, but you put the company owner as a secondary contact. And then obviously you'll need a whole bunch of questions, well, answered about the project. In addition, a homeowner permission form is required for any renovation and any custom home. So again, this is one of those ones that you might need to chase your client for. So we would suggest getting on this earlier than later. Our permission form that we use and that several other local and provincial associations use as well includes permissions granted for the national level, provincial level, and local level to use. The idea being that you don't have to go back to your client for every type of award program that you're entering. So make sure you've got that. If the home is a custom home and it's still in the builder's possession, it doesn't matter. You still need to upload something so that we know you didn't miss that step. So you can just write right on it, like in builder's possession, and don't worry about the rest of it. If you are the builder and you're the owner and you live in it, go ahead, fill out all your own information and upload it as well. But the system will require you to upload something, and we do check. Okay, we've got some tips here. Before I get into that, we've got a question. Can the floor plans be on the company title block? I don't know what that means, but if you mean to say, is it okay if the company information is on the floor plan? Which I'm assuming is what you mean. The answer is we very strongly encourage you not to have any type of identifying information on any of your documents. So hopefully that's a very easy, you go into Adobe Edit and you just remove that picture. That takes 2 seconds. We do tell our judges that that's not like a fireable offense, if you will. That said, some of them feel more strongly than others about including it. So I would be safe and take everything off. Same goes for your images, by the way. No watermarks are allowed on any of those images, especially because those are the things that we share on social media. And to be honest, it just doesn't look good. We will always tag you, don't worry. So you'll get the credit for the image, but don't put watermarks on them. All right. So some tips. We do have word entry forms for all of the different categories. And a new feature actually with our award program itself is yours. You can actually export it as a PDF as well. So we highly suggest if you're working as a team, like you have a few people feeding in information into your entry form, that you use the word entry form. It'll allow you to kind of all work collaboratively on it. It's also a really nice tech backup, just so that you've got everything saved on your own personal computer. Our award system is very reliable. Like I don't think we've ever had anybody lose information on it, but it's always good to be safe, right? And just a note on that, our awards platform, don't open it on multiple browsers because it's an autosave kind of platform. And let's say someone has it, down the hallway from you, they're working on it on their iPad and you've got it on a desktop, it might be overwriting your information. So just make sure that only one person's working on it, logged in as you at a time. In terms of answering the questions, again, imagine you are the one who's actually judging it. What would you want to read? Probably the answer is you want stuff to be clear. You want it to be to the point, and like not fluffy. Okay, so a lot of times people will kind of take the material that's in their marketing collateral and pop it in, and that's okay. That's more than okay. Just make sure it's not like too overly flowery and really lets the judges know what they're looking for. So think like yourself, think like a builder, think like a renovator when you're writing that stuff. Don't repeat yourself for the sake of meeting a word count. The word count is there as the maximum, but judges really appreciate, like, they can tell when you're just, kind of like a school assignment. If you're just babbling for the sake of meeting that word count, don't do that. Don't repeat yourself. If you have time, label your images. So when you go to upload them, there's like a little, first of all, the upload file, you don't worry about the name of that file. It doesn't matter. The judges won't see that. But there is like a little box underneath the images, what you upload, that you can answer. And some of the really cool things that I've seen people do that I'm passing along as a tip is people will use descriptors in that label of the picture. So again, not a requirement, but if you had time, for example, let's say you were uploading a photo of a living room. Basic is you just upload the photo of a living room and it's pretty obvious. Next level of effort, you've uploaded a picture of a living room and you've labeled it living room. Next level, you've labeled it bright and spacious living room. I don't know if it holds sway with the judges, but it definitely can't hurt. For renovations, labeling before and after, if it's not obvious, is very helpful. Don't assume that the judges actually know what the before and after is. And it's also helpful for renovations. You can rearrange the order that they show in, and it's very helpful to put the before image and the after image right next to each other, and ideally from the same angle. So really help the judges get an idea of the transformation of space that you've got going on. And then last tip is put your best exterior image first, because when the judges see everything, they see like a thumbnail next to each entry. And the easiest way to like A, get attracted by an entry, and B, to remember it when it comes time to make their selections, is to have that really awesome exterior image of the home. If you put a kitchen, it may be a really nice looking kitchen, but they don't quite associate it with what your home looks like. So that's our tip for entries. So on that note, I'm actually going to launch another quick poll here, which is in terms of judging, because I've been talking a lot about putting yourself in the frame of judges. So I just want to ask those of you who are here today, have you judged before? And if not, at which level have you judged? So if you can just take a quick second there to answer. Right now, it's looking like the majority of you on the call have never judged at any level of CHBA before. I'll give you another 5 seconds or so. So yeah, we're at 100% of people who've answered who have not judged. So I will say, if this is something that you're looking at doing and potentially doing again in the future, being a judge is, it's got a time commitment, obviously, but you're getting an inside look at everything. Number one, you get an inside look at what's going on in your area, or if you're judging national, across the country. And then number two, it really does help you create a stronger entry the following year, because you know exactly what the view looks like and how it works, and how people make selections and how much time they spend reading different areas, etc. So I definitely recommend for you to judge somewhere if you've got the opportunity to do so, because it gives you a lot of insight into not only trends that are happening across the country and really cool ideas of things that you might want to implement in your business, but also gives you a bit of an inside edge when it comes to creating an entry for a competition. So that said, shameless plug that we are still looking for judges for the national level of the competition. And for most people, the timeline is going to be from November 4th to 28th. So you'll get an assignment of several different categories, and you can complete them whenever is good for you over that 3-week period. Based on polls, like we asked judges and exit surveys how much time it takes, and the majority take between 6 and 8 hours to do their assignment. And we try and keep that pretty consistent every year. So that's what you'd be looking at, roughly 2 to 3 hours a week over a 3-week period. And then a small group of judges will be chosen to judge stage 2. So stage 1 is narrowing down the field down to 5 finalists, and then stage 2 is ranking those 5 finalists so that we come up with a winner. None of our judges actually know who wins until we announce them at the final award show. We don't ask people to come to a consensus. They vote and they give scores, and they don't know who wins until the final. You can find more information on chba.ca/judging about the judging and everything like that. So we do have a question about judging. How many judges review each submission? So it really depends on how many judges volunteer. Over the last several years, we've had approximately 200 judges, and I'm trying to remember exactly. It's sort of in the range of like 40. Because judges will get multiple categories. So usually we assign between 4 and 6 categories to each judge. So essentially you've got, let's call it anywhere between 30 and 50 eyeballs on your category. We also spread out the judging pool. So the way that we organize all the judging is to make sure we've got a really broad width geographically. So you won't just have people from one location judging, like it's spread out, right? You'll have a BC judge, an Ontario judge, a Nova Scotian judge, etc. As well as area of expertise. So, you might have 10 builders, 6 renovators, a few marketing experts, several architects, etc., all looking at the judge. Can you let me know where the word forms are located on the portal? Yep. So on the left-hand side, there should be under About entry forms, and you should be able to see it there. I'll actually pull it up in just a moment, but that's where it is. They're also all found on Housing Awards, chba.ca/housing awards. If you scroll towards the bottom, there's a bunch of tabs with information, and there's one tab with entry forms, and those are all Word documents as well. All right, so we've been answering questions as we go, but if you have any questions lingering, this would be the time while you've got a live person to answer them. Saves you a phone call later on. I'm not seeing any come in, but I'll give you a couple seconds. Just so you know, if any of you signed up for the one next week, it's the exact same thing. So we just wanted to give people a time option. So you're not getting any new information next week. I'm giving the same spiel, just hopefully to a completely different group of people. Okay, so I'm not seeing any more questions come in. Definitely, we've got a ton of information on the site itself about helping you prep for that. So key takeaways: start early, have at least have a look and know what you need to answer and gather information, etc. Enter if you know for sure you're entering, and then use up until the deadline to fine tune. If you get around to it, awesome. If you don't, at least you know your entries in there, no problem. I will say we probably get an embarrassing like 70% of people who hit that enter button in the last hour. Our system has not yet exploded, but it would be great if people entered a little bit earlier and then just kind of fine tuned up until that hour. We do have a question for the marketing rendering category. Are you looking for the rendering on its own, or can you show how it was used in the final brochure? Great question. So we are just looking for the renderings, and you can enter several of them. I can't remember right offhand what the maximum is. If you were looking for you could enter the brochure and then show several different screenshots of the brochure as well as link to the brochure. So that would be under the brochure entry. So not in use, just the rendering itself they'll be judging. All right, if you do have any questions that come to you as you go through this entry process, don't be shy. Check for everything. Check the FAQ. I went through a few of the top ones, but there's lots more there on the site. And if your question you still can't find it in there, feel free to email us. As I said, Amy is monitoring our email inbox with me there as well. So it doesn't matter if one of us is away; it's always being looked at, and that's definitely the best way to reach us. You can call, but honestly, it's not as good because sometimes we have to kind of look up the situation to give you an answer. So just send us a quick email, and you can actually request a call back if you wanted. That would be better than just leaving us a kind of nebulous voicemail that doesn't really give a lot of details. All right, thank you everybody for coming. Best of luck with your entry season. Take care.